Hello and welcome to another spoiler movie review right here on Stu and Dave's channel of Geektitude. And today we are going to be looking at a film where I'm just left wondering why? Why? We are of course talking about well, it's not is it? It's just Cloverfield Paradox. So before we get to this, obviously we should touch upon the fact that this is the third Cloverfield movie. It goes back to all the way 2008 when we had the original one, which was a success. It was a big hit. It wasn't necessarily for me because I'm not a fan of the whole shaky cam. Going back to the Blair Witch Project, you've got a lot to answer for, Blair Witch. But it was a monster movie. It was a big monster. The thing that they did really well with Cloverfield, obviously, was the marketing campaign that they had around it, because to go to the website, there was lots of clues like Slusho, and some of it was connected to the Dharma Initiative, which goes back to Lost, obviously, because J.J. Abrams was the guy behind Lost, and he was also the producer on Cloverfield. It was Bad Robot, his company that helped make the film. But it was what it was. It was a shaky cam monster movie which did big business. So then we jump forward 8 years to 2016, and there was a film. Now, I can't remember what the title of the film was going to be originally, but it was a psychological thriller type movie. And what they did was they took a script from a previous psychological thriller movie, and they decided, let's just chuck the Cloverfield name at it. So they got like the Cloverfield name in a big squishy ball, and they threw it at the wall, and they hoped that it stuck. And they turned the film into 10 Cloverfield Lane. Now, I enjoyed 10 Cloverfield Lane, I'm not going to lie, except for the last 10 minutes. And it's those last 10 minutes that make it a Cloverfield movie. If you haven't seen 10 Cloverfield Lane, obviously spoilers, but I did say spoiler at the beginning of this video. It's a film about a woman who crashes her car. When she wakes up, she finds herself in a bunker where John Goodman, who is exceptional in this film, has taken her. He's got this guy in the bunker as well, and he says he's protecting them from some big risk. He thinks that there might have been a nuclear war or alien invasion or something like that. Turns out in the end that they realise he's a bit mental and that he's killed some girl and pretended that the girl was his daughter and yada yada yada. The guy that John Goodman had in the thing, he gets killed, shot in the head, and then melted in a vat of acid. Lovely. The girl, she basically escapes. She gets outside, and you think, well, what the hell has this had to do with Cloverfield? And then it happens. Alien invasion! Big spaceship, some sort of weird alien dog thing comes out of like a cornfield and tries to attack her. Then there's like a gas cloud that comes down out the spaceship, which apparently is going to kill her, but she's in like this makeshift gas hazmat suit that she's made, and the gas seems to dissipate really quickly, and she's like perfectly fine after that. And another thing I don't understand in this segment that goes on for a couple of minutes, it goes from bright sunshine to the middle of the night. Bright sunshine, middle of the night. Bright sunshine, middle of the night. What the hell is that all about? Just don't know. Anyway, she's getting sucked up in this car into this giant spaceship, and she throws a Molotov cocktail into the spaceship, blows it up, escapes, drives off. Looks like she's going to drive off to nowhere. Radio comes on. There's an alien invasion. We need help. We need people to come to like Houston. So she decides to go off to Houston to join the fight against the alien invasion. And we see flashing up in the lightning on the sky, so I guess maybe that answers it. There was a thunderstorm coming, although there was no rain or thunder, so that doesn't really make any sense. And it's a huge mothership. Now, I always assumed, probably incorrectly after having seen the Cloverfield Paradox, that this was like connected to the first film, and that the kaiju, the big monster from the first Cloverfield movie, was an alien of some sort, and he was linked to the alien invasion and the two films were linked together, and that would be looked into in more depth in a third film. Speaking of which, we come to Cloverfield Paradox, which was originally called God Particle, and again had absolutely nothing to do with the Cloverfield franchise. It was a script that they've basically taken, and then they've just, again, they've got a squishy ball of Cloverfield goodness, chucked it against the wall and hoped that it stuck. And whilst Cloverfield was good, 10 Cloverfield Lane was a great film, except for the Cloverfield part at the end of it, which was shite. This film is just an absolute nonsense. It's set in the year 2028, and we're not going to delve into the plot too much because there's not really much of a plot to delve into. And the Earth is in the midst of a global war, potentially, because there's an energy crisis, and obviously countries are fighting over the energy and all the rest of it. And there's a what's the word I'm looking for? Space station, and they're trying out this big laser, not laser, it's Hadron Collider type thing like they've got in the CERN one in Switzerland, and they're going to fire it down at the Earth and hopefully solve all the energy crisis and stop any potential wars. So we find this woman, she goes up, she's like the main protagonist of the movie. Last saw her in the 4th season of Black Mirror, and they try this thing called the Shepherd, and it keeps failing, and they're up there for like over 2 years, and down on Earth, all of a sudden, some monsters just appear. So this woman's husband, he's going off to like help. There's some explosions. He's going off to the hospital to help. He finds this girl. He saves her, and he sees the shadow of a big monster or a kaiju. Or is it a kaiju? I don't know, because this is like 2028, and it doesn't make any reference to there having been a kaiju 20 years previous in 2008. So is this linked? I just don't know. So it then, when they eventually fire this Shepherd collider thing, it basically teleports them to another dimension, and everything starts going all hokey. And it turns out that the Earth that they're now next to is a different Earth, but it's also having, coincidentally, the same energy crisis problems that they were having on our Earth. Or is it our Earth? Just don't know. So long story short, it all goes Pete Tong on the spaceship. Some crazy stuff happens. Chris O'Dowd's arm gets cut off and walks around on its own like thing from the Addams Family, and is sentient and can like write stuff and knows what's going on. Ava, the main protagonist of the film, she discovers that her version of herself is still alive on this alternate Earth. Obviously she's now missing from our Earth because she's gone to an alternate dimension. Hope you're keeping up with this. And her kids are still alive on this alternate dimension. In her dimension, she accidentally killed them when she was stealing energy from somewhere, and it blew up and they died in a fire or something. I wasn't really paying that much attention because I was just bored out of my brains. So she decides she's going to go down to Earth, and she's going to save the other Ava's kids, because that's a way of making herself feel better about the fact she killed her own kids. But that doesn't really make sense, because just because they've got an energy crisis, that doesn't mean that her Ava is going to act in the same way that she does. For instance, our Ava is on the space station. The other dimension's Ava isn't. So things are different. So who's to say that that is actually what's going to happen? But anyway, comes down to the last two, which is Ava and this character called Schmidt. She sends a message down to the alternate Earth's Ava going, "Oh, don't, if you're going to do this energy thing, don't do it because you can kill your kids." Obviously, she doesn't say that. She just says, "Hug your kids and love your kids," and blah, 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 blah. And her and this guy, they basically fire the Shepherd thing again, which shoots them back off into their dimension, which is bloody lucky, really, isn't it? Because let's be honest, they could have ended up anywhere. They could have ended up in all sorts of alternate dimensions. Have they not read the multiverse? Read the multiverse? Do they not know about the multiverse is what I meant to say. So they end up back on their Earth. Their space station's basically knackered, but they fire the Shepherd's going to work, so it's going to save Earth. So they go back down to Earth. Her husband finds out that she's going to come back, and he's like, "Don't let her come back! Don't let her come back! Not while they're here!" What is he talking about? Well, as they go down through the clouds, a massive kaiju pops up in the foreground, and we are talking absolutely ginormous here. If the kaiju in the original Cloverfield film was not quite as big as a skyscraper, this one's as tall as the clouds. So how bloody big is this monster? And how, similar to Independence Day Resurgence, how can the planet Earth sustain that kind of extra weight? Particularly if that's not the only monster there is. But, you know, I digress. So the thing is, this film, on its own, and it was obviously not going to be a Cloverfield movie, on its own is a bog standard, not very interesting science fiction film with some hokey special effects. The fact that they've stuck the Cloverfield name on it, and it doesn't really have anything to do with the original Clover, because the thing was, in the trailer for this, they said 10 years ago we didn't know what was going to, something happened, and now we're going to find out why. Well, no, we didn't, did we? That's the biggest load of mis-selling bollocks of all time, let's be honest, because you didn't answer anything. Now, what I think is supposed to happen, because the next film, the fourth film, which is also out this year, so it's also not going to be particularly great, is it, let's be honest, is called Cloverfield Overlord, and it's set in World War II, and there's going to be alien technology, which obviously ties into the second Cloverfield film, 10 Cloverfield Lane, and kaijus, I think. So I think what they're trying to get at is that in the future, 2028, so Cloverfield Paradox timeline, they screw things up so bad that they basically cause a ripple effect, which throughout history and different dimensions has made some major effects. So it's made aliens turn up and kaijus turn up and this and that, which is just weak storytelling, because it's basically just giving them an excuse to do whatever the hell they want. They can now set it in the Wild West if they want and go, look, here's a kaiju in the Wild Wild West, and it doesn't really matter that there's no reference of this in like the future because it's a different dimension, so we can do whatever the hell we like. It's a bit like well, it is kind of a horror film, so it kind of goes with the standard horror film trope, you know, the slashers where they just make, look at Michael Myers. How many times has that dude's history changed? He was with the thorn and the rune stones and all the rest of it. They're just making stuff up as they go along. So the only thing about this film that makes it slightly interesting for me is the fact that obviously, and this kind of tells you that they knew it wasn't going to be particularly great, because they didn't release it at cinema, they didn't release it on DVD, they actually released it straight to Netflix. And it had its trailer during the 2018 Superbowl, along with Mission Impossible and the Avengers and all the rest of it. And they released a trailer for this and they went, available tonight on Netflix. And of course, geekdom and Cloverfield fans worldwide lost their shit. And they went on Netflix and I'm sure if Netflix have ratings, you know, do they do viewership numbers? I don't know. But if they do, I'm pretty sure Cloverfield Paradox is going to be right up there in terms of viewership. But going back to the previous Netflix exclusive movie, which was kind of a big deal because it had Will Smith in it, Bright, I would actually say Bright is a better film than Cloverfield Paradox. And if this is the sort of dirge that they're going to put out with the Cloverfield name without actually ever answering anything and just making stuff up as they go along, then they really need to stop now and just not bother. So I'm going to give this film 3 out of 10. Is that a little bit harsh? Maybe a 4? Don't know. Depends on how generous you're feeling. By all means, watch it if you've got Netflix. It's not going to cost you anything extra, is it? Because you're already paying your subscription. But don't expect anything wonderful, because you are going to be sorely disappointed. That's all I can say about that. So until next time, if you've got any thoughts on Cloverfield Paradox, or whether my theory, you know, whether it's not my theory, I shouldn't really be taking credit for it, whether the theory about it being different dimensions and time and chucking kaijus back through history is true, let me know in the comments below. If you completely disagree with me and you think that this film's amazing and it's like 9 out of 10, by all means, put a comment and let me know. But that's all from me. So until next time, keep it geek.